What's up? It's Michael from SBR Fit here again. If you've never seen me before, hello, thank you for joining me. If you have, welcome back. So you may be watching this on Facebook, you may be watching this on YouTube, depending on what platform you're on, obviously. If you're on Facebook, please give the SBR Fit Facebook page a like, because there will be lots of this kind of content coming out very soon for you. If you are on YouTube, then please do me a favor, click subscribe. And if you know anybody who is going to be affected by what I'm talking about today, then please fire this video across to them. Awesome. But what are we talking about? Right. So it is the 6th of January 2021. England and most of the UK are stuck in a lockdown. But that's not what I'm talking about. What we want to talk about is goal setting. The reason for that is, and the reason why I'm talking about it on the 6th of January rather than December, is because at this point in time is when most people are going to be giving up on their New Year's resolutions. Yeah, they do well for the first week in January, and then a little bit of hesitancy and a little bit of latency comes in and they kind of stop it. So this video is all about how you set, achieve, and smash some really, really good goals. Okay? And it's not just about, writing them down and all that kind of stuff. It's about real world tips on how you can make sure that the goals that you set are appropriate for you. Because that's one of the reasons why a lot of people fail on New Year's resolutions, is that they think something's a good idea until they actually do it. But also, you can look at the other side to achievement. So the things that might stop you, the things that might get in the way, the reasons why potentially the goal that you're choosing isn't the right goal for you as a person or your current situation. So that is what we're looking at. Guys, it's a little bit of a longer video today, so I apologize for that. Well, I don't apologize for it. I kind of think that it's quite good, but it is a bit long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link somewhere below that if you want to download this video, you can get it and just watch it kind of whenever you want. So please keep an eye out for that link just in case you want to get it. You're talking probably about 30 minutes. So what I am going to do now is I am going to spin out. You're going to see my lovely SBR Fit logo, and then I'm going to reappear wearing green, because I recorded the main part of this video yesterday. And we're going to have a discussion about how to set, how to smash, and how to make sure that your goals are the right things for you. See you very shortly. Alright, so as you'll see, we have a little bit of a PowerPoint. I'm not going to death by PowerPoint you because I don't really like doing that. This is kind of here just to give me some prompts and actually to give you something to focus on as well, just while we are discussing what we're talking about in terms of goal setting and how to properly achieve those goals. So the first thing I suppose that we really want to talk about is kind of the background behind what goal setting is. So what we're going to look at just in the next little while are kind of these points here. So why do we set them? What actually is a goal and what constitutes a goal? Because there's a difference between a goal and an aim or a dream or whatever. So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at some smart goal setting. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. Loads of people spend loads of time on smart goal setting. It's kind of old school and a little bit sort of dated now. So I'm going to touch on it and we're going to talk about how you can use it to help structure your plans. But I'm not going to kind of go into it loads. Then we're going to look at the really important stuff. So the SMART goal setting on one side is important because it tells you kind of where you're going to get to or where you want to get to and kind of gives you that little bit of focus. But then like the other side to it is what's going to stop you getting there. It's all right knowing exactly where you want to go, but very, very rarely in life do we set out on a journey and have no deviations or issues or anything like that on the way to achieving them. So we're going to have a look at the barriers and the roadblocks, and we're going to look at how we can get around those to help us get to where we want to get to. Finally, we're going to come on to counting the cost and then review and reward. So counting the cost is something that doesn't get talked about even I suppose this is going to be awesome English, but even less than barriers and roadblocks. People kind of know that there's going to be barriers and roadblocks that they have to get past. But counting the cost is a bit of a deeper kind of issue, because it looks at maybe what you're going to have to sacrifice in order to change yourself. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then how you can reward yourself and just keep yourself on track in general. So first off, why do we set goals? Why do we not just set out and just randomly try to achieve things? The reason being, it gives us a little bit of structure and gives us a little bit of drive. So if you, for example, said that you wanted to get fit this year, so we're sitting in January of 2021, just so that we can make this video untimely. So say at the end of 2020, you were like, right, the whole lockdown thing's got me really unfit. I want to get fit. Now, if you don't have a goal, if you just say you want to get fit, you don't really know where you're going with that. Yeah, fitness is a very wide-ranging subject, and it could be that you class fitness as being able to do an Ironman, or it could be that you class fitness as being able to play with your kids for 45 minutes without getting out of breath. Those are two very different things. So having a goal that you can work towards helps you get towards that goal. Yeah, does that make sense? It helps to give you some kind of discipline. The human nature is kind of task focused. So unless we have something that we are working towards, the general consensus around human nature is that we will float. Yeah, and we'll just not really get very much done. And I think a lot of people who, over the last couple of years, have maybe been furloughed, so I think furlough is probably the worst thing that can happen to quite a lot of people, is that, you end up just not really having much going on. Yeah, and once you lose that focus and that routine and that kind of drive, it impacts on everything else around you. Force you to keep reviewing and keep progressing along the road to making yourself a better person, making yourself a better functioning human, or whatever it is that you want to do. And ultimately, we can measure our progress really well through setting decent, well thought out goals. But what actually is a goal? So I've always worked on the understanding that a goal is a dream with a time limit. Yeah. So it's something that you want to achieve that you've never achieved before, but it's something that you want to achieve in a certain amount of time. Okay? So there's a big difference between a goal and a dream. A dream could be something like, I don't know, I want to move to Greece and open my own bar. Yeah, that's a dream. Yeah, that would become a goal if I said I want to move to Greece and open my own bar in 5 years' time, and I started putting a plan towards the back of that. Okay. They should generally be kind of challenging for you, and it should be something that excites, but also isn't something that that you can do. Otherwise, it's just a plan. Okay. We've also got on here that's the overarching end point that you want to get to, but also that it is the method for doing that. Okay, so goals should always have a structure to how you're going to achieve them. Otherwise, there's not really much point, being honest. And ultimately, they should be individual to you. So one of the things that I've always worked on with my personal training clients and with my coaching clients is getting them to set their own goals. What a lot of coaches and what a lot of trainers and a lot of people who are in the self-development world do is that they'll sit down with somebody and they'll be like, okay, so what is it you want to achieve? And you'll get a very loose kind of answer. But then what happens is the trainer or the coach or whoever will then go on and say, well, here's what I think you should aim for. Here's what I think you should aim for. That means that the goal is the coach's. It's not yours. Okay? Now, what you want to do whenever you're setting a goal is you need to come up with the goal. And that's what we're going to talk about in this session, is how do we do that? Yeah? How do you put together something that is going to be relatable and individual to you so that it motivates you? And we're going to do that just by talking, really quickly through the SMART goal setting structure. There are lots of different other set ways to do this. I kind of like SMART just because it's easy. Okay, it's quite straightforward for people to get through. So there's a few different ways that we look at SMART goals. I know certainly if you've ever come across me teaching for Premier Global, the active IQ and the Premier Global way of teaching SMART goals is slightly different to this, so it might be a little bit contradictory. What I've done here is I've taken the SMART acronym and I've kind of tweaked it a little bit so that it works better, and what I've found is that this tends to be a better way to work for most people. So first of all, specific. It then needs to be motivating, so it needs to excite you. It needs to be something that isn't bland. It needs to be achievable. We want it to be relevant or relatable. Either of those. I'm going to talk about the difference between those two in a second. And then it needs to be set to a time scale. As we've already said, it's a dream with a time limit. If you don't have a time scale, it's not a goal. So first off, let's have a look at specificity. Okay, we want the goal to be specific. Now, the reason we want it to be specific is so that you kind of know when you've got there and you know what the journey is going to entail. And I've put this statement up on the PowerPoint here. Think about it this way, right? If you ordered yourself some dinner through one of the delivery people, I've written Deliveroo here, but it could be Just Eat, it could be Uber Eats, it could be whoever. And all you do is you give them your street name, there's going to be a slight problem, okay? Now, in my street, there's 122 houses. If I just said, I want you to deliver to, I'm not going to say my street name, I want you to deliver to this road, then that delivery driver has a 1 in 122 chance of getting the right house. Now, the likelihood of me getting my food is quite minimal in that case. One of two things will happen. The delivery driver will drop the food off at a random house and just be like, here you go. One of my neighbours will benefit from a takeaway. Or they might be diligent and they'll start going to all of the houses and ringing the bell and saying, did you order food? Now, neither of those are quite good. Because first off, you're not going to get your food because one of your neighbours is going to get it. Secondly, if you do get it, it's going to be cold because it's going to take them so damn long to go through potentially 122 houses before they get to you. So the reason we look for specificity is so that you know where you're targeting. Okay? It is absolutely fundamental to putting two good goals together. And it should always include a number. Okay? And that's how we make it specific. So if you want to lose weight, then you need to put a number on it, right? Is it a kilo? Is it a stone? Is it half a stone? Whatever. But it needs to be stated within that goal. If you want to run a marathon, that's quite straightforward because the number's already there. I want to run 26.2 miles. Boom. Done. Easy. If you want to complete an Ironman, then that number's already there for you. But you can go further than that and say, I want to complete it in a certain time, which then makes it even more specific. Okay? Motivational. Pro tip. Nobody ever achieves boring goals. And a lot of the time within the world of training and fitness and stuff, boring goals are the one that gets focused on. You'll have a session with somebody and they'll say, right, you want to lose weight? How much weight do you want to lose? Oh, I want to lose, I've written an example here, I want to lose 15 pounds. Okay, cool, so that's your goal. You want to lose 15 pounds. Does that really, really motivate you? Probably not. It's quite arbitrary, right? It doesn't speak to the reason behind it. And this is why you need to look a little bit deeper than that. Okay, so that you've got the surface level stuff of what you want to achieve, but the stuff that's really going to drive you to achieve that is the background behind it. Okay? And I've never had, in the 15, 16 years that I've worked with clients, I've never had somebody who has come to me with a fitness or a weight loss goal like that. I want to lose 15 pounds or I want to lose 6 kilos or whatever it might be, who doesn't have an underlying reason behind it. Okay? And they usually don't want to tell me, but we need to get to it. So it could be that they want to look better than their mate whenever they go on holiday. It could be that somebody's got a wedding coming up and they want to look their best for it. It could be something like they've got a school reunion. Okay? But you need to know, and you need to know that whenever you're setting your own goals, the reason behind the goal. Because ultimately, that is what's going to keep you getting up early in the morning to work to achieve that. Okay? So whenever you're writing these down, and I really do suggest that you write goals down, you want to think about the background to it as well. Okay, I want to do this because of this. And if you wanted to write that as a sentence, you can do. I want to do X because, yeah. So the second one I've got there, I want to complete an Ironman in 8.5 hours. That's super quick. You definitely qualify for Kona with that. In order to qualify for Kona. Yeah. You could also say, I want to complete an Ironman to get the sense of achievement that comes along with that. Or to get the tattoo. Yeah. Whatever that might be. So motivating is key. Specific and motivating. I want to achieve X because of Y. Achievable. I'm not going to spend loads of time on this. Ultimately, if you want to achieve, if you want to go for a goal, it needs to be something that is achievable. So this is going to relate to time as well. But the first thing is ability, I suppose. You know, if you've set yourself, or you've got the dream that you want to do something like, let's say you want to qualify for Kona. I mean, half of what I do is coaching and half of it's personal training. So let's talk about the triathlon side of it. Right? So you want to qualify for the World Ironman Championships in Kona. In order to do that, you need to be a talented athlete, but you also need to put the work in. Okay? And putting that work in is, you know, talking 15, 16, 17 hours a week plus. So more than that. It's early mornings, it's late nights, it's being out on your bike at the weekend for 5-6 hours and being away from your family. Right? You need to tick these things off against each other. Right? So it's not just about, do you have the skill set? You know, there's loads and loads and loads of athletes out there that have the skill set to qualify for Ironman Hawaii every year. There's not many that actually do it. Because having the skill set and then having the mindset and the time available are two slightly different things. So you really need to focus on, is what you want to do achievable in the time that you've got? If we take that one step back, and you know, at the moment there's a lot of people that are saying, oh, I want to do this year, I want to do that this year. If we're talking about just completing an Ironman triathlon, generally we say about 6 months is about the right kind of time frame. If you're an advanced athlete, it's less than that. If you're a complete beginner, it can even go out to 12 months. That's why kind of they open the entries a year before. So you can get your entry, you can start working if you're a complete beginner. So there's some people out there at the moment, and there's some people who are coming and asking me and saying, oh, I'd like to start getting ready for this race. And in a lot of cases, you know, it's too soon. So the goal is not achievable because you've not left yourself enough time to get ready for it. Okay. Is it relevant? So, and this is an interesting one as well. Will the goal that you want to achieve actually improve your life? Is it something that is going to enrich you as a person? Is it going to improve things for your family? Is it going to improve things for the world in general? And this is where, again, we talk about being motivational, but relevant comes into it too. Okay? So you see lots of people that say that, oh, they want to do this. And when somebody says, why is it that you really want to do this? They don't really know. Yeah? So it could be that they've just seen something they think's kind of cool. They haven't really thought it through, and suddenly that becomes a goal for them. What'll happen is, if your goal is not completely relevant to you and your life, you're going to get a few weeks or months into trying to achieve it, and you're going to suddenly be like, why am I doing this? And then all of a sudden, you're not going to be that interested in it, and ultimately you're going to have wasted all of the time working up to that point, which isn't ideal, really. And finally, time framed. When do we want to do this by? Okay. So, is it a month? Is it 2 months? Is it a year? Is it 6 months? This is vital so that you can start to plan. Okay. So that is SMART goals. Now, SMART goals Ideally, you want to use them for a long-term goal, but once you have that long-term goal, so let's say in 6 months' time you want to complete an Ironman triathlon, or in 5 months' time you want to have lost a certain amount of weight so you can go on holiday, if we're allowed to. You then need to think about splitting it down. Okay? And this is where we talk about barriers, roadblocks, and all the other checks that go along with it. So your long-term goal can be split down into medium-term goals. So generally what I would say is that medium-term goals should be roughly month to month. And I'm going to talk about why in a second. So if you have a 6-month long-term goal, you then want to go through the SMART process of setting smaller SMART goals for the 6 monthly periods that lead up to that. Okay. Now, when I talked about relevance is important there as well, because those 6 monthly goals need to be relevant to the long-term goal in order to get you there. Think about it this way. If you were trying to drive from Essex to Manchester, right, you would have certain checkpoints along the way, right? So think about your sat-nav. So your sat-nav is going to say, right, turn right here, turn left here, go on this motorway, turn off this motorway. Those checkpoints where the sat-nav's telling you to make different turns, those can be your short-term goals, or your medium-term goals, sorry. Yeah. So they're the stepping stones that take you to the end point. The short-term goals are day-to-day actions. Now these are things that you can sit down on a daily basis or a weekly basis and say, right, for the next week I want to achieve this. Okay. Your motivation, your relevance and all that kind of stuff doesn't come into it so much with the short-term goals, because ultimately they're leading you to the medium-term goals, and the medium-term goals then lead you to the long-term goals. Cool? All right. So that's the SMART stuff. And now most coaches and most trainers and most people who sit and think about setting themselves goals stop at that point. SMART goals are done. Happy days. I am on track. Not quite. What I want you to think about now is any journey that you go on is going to have things that slow you down, things that get in the way, things that you need to get around. And that is exactly the same as when you're working towards trying to achieve a goal or something. All right. Now the difference between people who achieve and people who don't, ultimately, is their ability to get around these things, because they will happen. Yeah. So what I think about it whenever we're talking about barriers and roadblocks is anything that could slow you down or anything that could get in the way of getting you to that goal. All right. So it could be internal things. It could be external things. When I talk about the difference between internal and external is generally mindset, your ways of thinking, and how you go about carrying out different tasks. Okay? So as an example, one of my big problems is, and this is a really stupid thing, and anybody watching this, you can comment below and just be like, really? If I don't achieve what I want to achieve on a Monday, the rest of the week is a waste of time. Okay? So what I used to do, before I figured this out, is I used to always structure quite hard workouts or quite solid workouts on a Monday. And invariably, if you work in an office or you work in anything that has Saturday and Sunday off, Monday tends to be your busiest day of the week. So what I'd end up doing is, like, I'd be struggling with work, I'd miss a training session, and then the rest of the week would be a complete write-off. And I don't know why that is. It's something that is just inherent to me. I've not really looked too closely into it. What I've done is I've created a strategy for myself to get around that. And that strategy is this. On a Monday, I structure an optional workout. It doesn't have to be anything particularly difficult. Sometimes it is, but it's always optional. And that means that if I don't get a chance to do it, I know it's optional. So even if I don't do it, I'm still on track. And that means that for the rest of the week, I'm pretty motivated and pretty good. Whereas if it wasn't optional and I missed it, the rest of the week would be a waste of time. And I know how stupid that is. But I know that it's a barrier for me, and I've worked a strategy to get past it. So that is what you need to do. An external factor is anything outside of, I suppose, outside of your direct control. Okay? So it could be, I'm going to use myself as an example again. Sometimes I have to teach on a Saturday. Okay? If I'm teaching on a Saturday, I won't be finished until 2:30 in the afternoon. For me to then go and say, right, I'm going to go out and do a 2-hour or 3-hour run, my wife would probably kill me. Okay? Now, if I didn't build flexibility into my training and into my structure, what would happen then would either be I'd have a row with my wife, which would then kind of probably mean that I wouldn't train anyway, and I possibly wouldn't train the next day. Or I'd finish teaching and just be like, do you know what? I'm not going to run today. And then I would have missed a 2.5 hour training session, which isn't very good. So because I know that that's coming, that's a roadblock or a barrier, I can work around it. So if I teach on a Saturday, what I'll do is I'll move that training session to maybe a Friday. Yeah. Or I might slot it in somewhere else in the week. And I'll have a shorter session on a Saturday afternoon or a Saturday evening. Yeah. But if you don't plan ahead and you don't look at these things, you can't come up with solutions. You know, there could be other things, and we're going to talk about that in counting the cost, but barriers and roadblocks are the stuff that's going to slow you down. So let's look at counting the cost. Now, counting the cost is an interesting one. I'm going to relate it back to physics. I know that we've got that on the screen here, but in physics, we say that for every force, there's an equal and opposite force going in the opposite direction. Yeah. So if you jump and you land on the ground and you're 80 kilos, you put 80 kilos of force into the ground, you get 80 kilos of force coming out of the ground. Yeah. That kind of loosely translates into, for every action there is a reaction. Okay. Every single thing that you do causes a reaction somewhere. Now, let's think about this. Let's say you have come into the start of the year and you've said, right, this is going to be the year where I'm going to give up alcohol. Right? And you haven't thought quite around that. And it may be that you have groups of friends who a lot of their social elements and a lot of their social stuff is based around alcohol. Go to the pub on a Friday night, I don't know, go out on a Saturday night, that kind of stuff. If you don't consider the background to that, you may end up failing in that goal. Okay? Because it might not be the right goal for you. So what you need to think about is how achieving something that you want to achieve may have a negative impact on your life, because it can do. Yeah. You work with a lot of people who do long distance triathlon. Ironman triathlon training takes up so much of your time that you need to think about, okay, have I got a family that need me to do stuff for them? Is that congruent with the amount of time that I need to spend training? Okay. It could be that you want to have some more freedom in your life. If you want to have some more freedom in your life and you're in a very restrictive but well-paid job, it may be that you have to think about, okay, so maybe my financial situation is going to be a little bit worse in order to get that work-life balance back. I've seen that a lot of times work in London. So that's the final thing, and that's kind of like the biggest one. So before you even start working towards something that you want to achieve, think about the negative connotations that might occur from it. Because if you don't think about that, you may end up achieving something but losing something that's equally important to you. Okay. And then we come on finally to review and reward. So review and reward is really important. I would say have a check every week. So set yourself weekly goals. You know, hit every training session this week, or achieve something within a session that you want to achieve, and have that each week so you have something that you're looking for or something that you're going to achieve. Give yourself a little reward for that, nothing too major. But then on a monthly basis, have your medium-term goals and give yourself back something from that. Okay? So let's say you're on a weight loss journey. If you're on a weight loss journey and you hit all of your short-term goals, then maybe give yourself a blowout at the end of the month, but only one. Okay? So you've hit all your short-term goals, you hit your medium-term goal, you allow yourself one day off from the diet, from the exercise, to go back to whatever feels comfortable or whatever feels good for you, so that it just allows you that little bit of achievement. The one thing to remember as you go through this process is that it is a journey. Okay? Ultimately, you want to end up coming out the other side of it as a different person, even if it's a different person in just a small way. Yeah, it could be that, you know, now you're a non-smoker when before you were a smoker. It could be that now you have achieved something that you wanted to achieve for years. But remember that you need to celebrate those little wins. And you also need to be flexible enough to change things as you go. Yeah? Because what you're going to learn is the stuff that works and the stuff that doesn't work. That's why it's important to have the short-term and the medium-term goals, because you can start working towards those short-term goals, and if you feel that they're not working for you, or they're not getting the best out of you, you can modify them. So one week it might be you want to train on specific days, but then you might find that those days don't work, so you flex it and you train on different days. Okay? And ultimately all of this is going to help you stay on track. Staying on track, staying consistent and moving forwards consistently is what is ultimately going to get you to that goal. So as you can see, there's a lot more to it than just setting SMART goals. SMART goals are an awesome start. Don't get me wrong. It's a really good way to start the planning process. But once you've set them, you need to do the background to make sure that you can achieve those goals. All right, now go and get after them. And we're back, mysteriously back in a white t-shirt, same hat. It's kind of my favorite hat, this one. I got this, I don't know why I'm telling you this story, but I got this in France after I finished Ironman Nice. So that was, 2019? It's still going strong and still looking sharp. Probably not, actually, to be fair. Anyway, I hope that you have found that last sort of 20-25 minutes really useful. If you have any questions at all, my email address is going to be down below. So I'll read it out to you. It's really simple. It's Michael, Michael, at SBR, stands for swim, bike, run, if you didn't know that. SBR fit, as in fitness, .co.uk. Email me, ask me any questions you want. If you need any help setting yourself goals or holding yourself accountable to those goals, then please get in touch. I am more than willing to help anybody who drops me a line. Also, as I said at the start, if you could like this video, share it with anybody you think needs to see it. Even if you don't think they need to see it, send it to anybody. And if you're on Facebook, please like the Facebook page so that you can see other stuff and put the notifications icon up. If you're on YouTube, then please do the same. Subscribe. It really helps me out to get the message out there as much as possible. And if you could like and share this video far and wide, that would be amazing. I hope you have an awesome 2021. Let's be honest, it's probably not going to be any worse than 2020. Hopefully we can get some racing done, hopefully we can get some good training done, and hopefully I'll be able to talk about other stuff other than theoretical ways of training. Wicked. Guys, see you later.